So it's time, if you're still foggy on stuff, you are going to have to start spending some time studying a little bit. All right, so here we go. Practice test 3. The quiz you just took pretty much covers the whole test except for part 1. Part 1 is the tricky part. So here we go. Let's take a look at part 1. And let's see if you can simplify these guys. All right, so here we go. Let's look at this one. Now, because of the minuses and the pluses, you cannot cancel. Please don't start canceling. You can't cancel with pluses and minuses unless the whole thing cancels. So in other words, if you cancel out the whole thing, it's okay. But you can't take pieces of it. All right? So there's no canceling right now. Is there any factoring that can happen? Because usually when I factor, I can end up canceling. So does anybody see any factoring in the numerator?
3.
No, you can't take a sign out because you don't have a sign here. You have to take something out of both of these, and there's nothing you can take out of both. But this guy as a whole is the difference of squares. So it's 3 minus sign, 3 plus sign. Okay, if this had been a 16, it would be 4 minus sign, 4 plus sign, right? If it's a 1, it would be 1 minus sign, 1 plus sign. It's the difference of squares. And now what happens? Now they cancel. Because I can cancel the whole piece. So what's my answer? 3 minus sign. So we need to recognize when we look at this problem that the numerator is the difference of squares. Okay? All right, what about this guy? All right, so this is cosine over 1, and this is cosine over sine, and this is sine over 1. Now, do not start canceling because this and this don't cancel because that is a plus. It only cancels if it's a times. Okay? So nothing cancels here, so I'm going to write cosine squared over sine. And obviously nothing cancels there. So there's what I have.
So cosine over sine, even though it's squared, can you still do cotangent?
No.
Okay.
How do I add fractions? That's right, I'm doing. I'm adding these two fractions. I get a common denominator. So this one's got to be times by sine. Right? So now I've got cosine squared over sine plus sine squared over sine. Now, why did I get a common denominator? So I could add them, right? So now I'm going to add them. So I've got cosine squared plus sine squared over sine. I have added them now. Put them together into one fraction. Look at that numerator. That's 1. The numerator is 1. Sine squared plus cosine squared is 1. So we have 1 over sine. And what's 1 over sine? Cosecant. That's a tough problem. You will not see anything harder than that, for sure. That's as tough as you're going to get on your test. We have to change cotangent. Then we got a common denominator. And then we recognize we had the 1 in the top. All right, B. Oh, you had to do this on your quiz, so hopefully everybody remembered how to do it. If you didn't, you get another chance on the test. Okay, gotta find everything that's missing, got it all written over here to the side. This is what we need to find, right? Okay, so here we go. Do not do area. We're not doing area. We're finding sides and angles, which means we're going to be using the law of sines or cosines.
So should we add all the angles first?
Yeah, we can figure out what that missing angle is. What would that missing angle be? 80. So in the capital A blank, you're going to put 80 degrees. Easy points, automatic points. Okay, now you gotta find the sides though, so
Now you can do sine.
now we can do the law of sines, because don't we have that pair right there? So sine 80 over 10 equals sine 47 over B, and sine 80 over 10 equals sine 53 over C. We gotta do them both, guys, because we have to find both sides. Doesn't matter which one we do first. We have to cross multiply. And I want everybody doing this with me. At this point, we cannot be missing this on our calculator. We need to practice so that when we have a test, we'll get the right answer when we type it in. So I have sum both up. Remember, guys, B is your variable, so you're dividing by sine 80. Actually, in both cases, right? You're dividing by sine 80. So 10 sine 47, close parentheses, divided by sine 80 is 7.43 for B.
Yes.
So make sure you put it in the right answer blank. That's B. And then 10 sine 53 close parentheses divided by sine 80. 8.10.
I put 11.
8.11.
Oh, I just did round that. I get confused when there's 9.
Directions on the test will be the same as on the practice test. So we're rounding to the nearest hundred. Anybody have a question about that? Because I'm going to have to erase it to do the next one. Okay. So the next one has the same directions. The exact same directions, but the triangle looks different.
Is this side to side? No,
All right.
that's area.
Now, remember, I know I keep saying this, but it is so tempting, especially for those of you that have been paying attention. You look at that and think, oh my gosh, 1/2, 18 times 23 times sine 42. But what is that?
That's area.
Area, and I'm not finding area,
No, ma'am.
So close.
right? So I'm gonna have to use sines or cosines, and which would work in this particular problem?
Cosine.
This is gonna be a cosine problem. This is going to be a cosine problem. So here we go. What's that gonna look like?
D squared.
D squared equals,
And then at the end, cosine 42.
at the end it's gonna be cosine 42.
With everybody.
And then in the middle, it's 18 squared plus 23 squared
Minus 2.
minus 2 times 18 times 23. So I'm going to stand here and stare until I see every single person typing this in on your calculator. includes you, James Lake. I want
I wanna make sure I
every
memorize
single
the-
person.
Well, I don't wanna look at the.
And then this is one, remember, when you type it all in, it's gonna be d squared, right? So we're gonna have to square root it. Whatever answer you got when you typed all that in, you need to square root that. Hope?
So when you do this, I got 853, and then you split it at the -2. You put it over -828. So it's time for.
Hope, you type this in. The variable's over here all by itself. We just type this in. We're solving for D and D is already solved for.
So why do you do that?
When the variable's out here. It's a whole different looking equation, same formula, but it's totally different.
I get it now.
So pay attention to where your variable is. You are trying to get the variable by itself.
15.42.
What?
15.42.
15.42. I'm hearing that right from several people, is it right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, take a look at your situation at this point.
Sine.
Now I can set up my law of sines. So sine 42 over 15.42 equals sine f over 18, for example. So 15.42 sine f equals 18 sine 42. Now be careful, what's your variable? Sine f, that's a unit. You can't split that. So sine f equals 18 sine 42 over 15.42. But then to get f, which is what you need for your answer blank, you have to second sign, inverse sign this fraction.
I got 51.36. Me too.
51.36.
And then you just.
Now's the time to speak your piece, because like when they get married, speak now or forever hold your peace. Don't-
If I solve for E, and that's what I got for E.
No, that can't be what you got for each, because this number will be at 23.
Oh, just kidding, I wrote E, I solved for F. Sorry. My bad.
All right? Charlie, did you get 51.36?
Yes.
All right, that didn't sound too convincing, but okay, Jose, 51.36?
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, I know exactly what I did.
I have no idea what you're typing in that one. Inverse sign. There's a button. Okay? Then, you still have one more piece to find, but it's a no-brainer, right? Because all of the angles have to add up to 180. So if you take 180 minus these, what do you get?
86.64.
What is it? 86.64? Is that right? And that's all the answer blanks now are filled in for that problem, right? Okay, we got time to do one of these problems.
You gotta start working on it.
I know what I did. I know it.
Are we done with this one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get it now, Madison?
Start now.
All right, now, So the last problem we did was kind of big and complicated because we had to find all the pieces. This time we don't. This time we're gonna find this angle, if we even can. Remember, sometimes we can't. The answer to this question is gonna be what? 0, 1, or 2. So the focus is right here on this angle. So sine 58 over 6 equals sine C over 18. Kids, when you look at this problem, this should clue you in that you're gonna do the law of sines, right?
Yes.
Okay. So 6 sine C equals 18 sine 58. Again, what am I dividing by here? Just 6. So sine C equals all that divided by 6. So sine C equals 18 sine 58 over 6. And then what do I type in my calculator? Second sine, inverse sine, 18 sine 58 over 6. And what happens? You get an error. So what is the answer to the problem?
No.
0. No triangles are possible. You don't have to do any more work. That's it. You got an error message. So how many triangles are possible? None.